world as I had never seen it in all its ages, with all its secrets of the past revealed. I had only to rush to the railing, and I could peer down into the time of Eden. Everything there, to be known, and finally comprehended. All questions settled. The smell of another time, the taste of it. I ran towards the balustrade, which seemed to be farther and farther away. Faster and faster, I headed towards it. Yet, still, the distance was impossible, and suddenly, I became intensely aware that this vision of Earth would be mingled with smoke and fire and suffering, and that I might utterly demolish in me the overwhelmingly sense of joy. I had to see it. However, I was not dead. I was not here to stay. Memnoch reached out for me, but I ran faster than he could. An immense light rose suddenly, a direct source infinitely hotter and more illuminating than the splendid light that already fell without prejudice on everything I could see. This great gathering magnetic light grew larger and larger. The great dim landscape of smoke and horror and suffering was turned white by this light and rendered like an abstraction of itself on the verge of combusting. Memnoch pulled me back, throwing his arms up to cover my eyes. I did the same. I realized he had bowed his head, and he was hiding his eyes behind me. I heard him sigh, or was it a moan? I couldn't tell. For 1 second, the sound filled the universe. All the cries and laughter and singing, and something mournful from the depths of Earth. All this sound was caught in Memnoch's sigh. Suddenly, I felt his strong arms relaxed and releasing me. I looked up in the midst of the flood of light. I saw again the balustrade, and against it stood a single form. It was a tall figure who stood with his hands on the railing, looking over it and down. This appeared to be a man. He turned around and looked at me, and reached out to receive me. His hair and eyes were dark, brownish, his face perfectly symmetrical and flawless, his gaze intense, and the grasp of his fingers very tight. I drew in my breath. I felt my body in all its solidity and fragility as his fingers clung to me. I was on the verge of death. I might have ceased to breathe at a moment, or ceased to move with the commitment to life, and might have died. The being drew towards me himself, a light flooding from him that mingled with the light behind him and all around him. So his face grew brighter, yet more detailed. I saw the pores of his darkening golden skin. I saw the cracks in his lips, the shadow of the hair that had been shaved from his face. And then he spoke loudly, pleadingly to me, in a heartbroken voice, a voice so strong and masculine, and perhaps even young. You would never be my adversary, would you? You wouldn't, would you? Not you, Lestat, no. Not you. My God, in utterly agony, I was torn out of his grip, out of his midst, out of his milieu. The whirlwind once again surrounded us. I sobbed and beat on Memnoch's chest. Heaven was gone. Memnoch, let go of me. God. It was God. Memnoch tightened his grip, straining with all his force to carry me downwards. to make me submit, to force me to begin the descent. We plummeted, that awful falling, which struck such fear in me that I couldn't protest or cling to Memnoch, or do anything except watch the swift currents of souls all around, ascending, watching, descending, the darkness coming again, everything growing dark until suddenly we traveled through moist air, full of familiar and natural scents, and then came to a soft, soundless pause. It was the garden again. It was still beautiful, but it was Earth. I knew it.